Caught my wife secretly talking to an old male friend. Can I trust her again, or is this the end? Hey Reddit. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet, I would have laughed. But here I am, sleepless at 2 a.m., questioning everything I thought I knew about my wife and our 10 years of marriage. This isn't just a venting session, this is my desperate attempt to make sense of a situation that feels straight out of a bad movie. My wife and I have always been close, or at least I thought so. We've built a life together, 2 amazing kids, a cozy home, and years of memories that I once thought were unshakable. But lately, something feels off. It started small. A subtle shift in her behavior. She's always been active on her phone, chatting with friends or scrolling through Pinterest, but this was different. She'd started keeping her phone close, almost glued to her side. At dinner, during movie nights, even when she was cooking, her phone was always within arm's reach. And she never used to care about keeping it face down. That was my first red flag, but I tried to shake it off. I didn't want to seem like one of those guys, paranoid over nothing. But then the laughter started. Quiet giggles when she was texting someone late at night. I'd ask what was so funny, and she'd dismiss it with vague answers like, just something silly from work. Her responses were quick, almost rehearsed, and her eyes never quite met mine. Still, I told myself it was nothing. I mean, this is my wife, the woman I've trusted with my life. Why would I doubt her? But the gut feeling wouldn't go away. And then, one night, everything came crashing down. She went to bed early, claiming she was exhausted. I stayed up late working on a project, and her phone was lying on the kitchen counter. Normally, I wouldn't even think about touching it, but that night, something compelled me. As I picked it up to plug it into the charger, a message popped up. It was from a man named Mike. The message read, "I can't stop thinking about the old times. You were always so easy to talk to." I froze. My chest tightened, and my hands started shaking. Mike? Who the hell was Mike? My mind raced as I opened their chat. What I found made my stomach churn. Their messages weren't outright scandalous, but they were far from innocent. They talked about their shared past, how much they missed their younger days, and how great it felt to reconnect. There were no explicit photos or overtly romantic confessions, but the emotional undertone was undeniable. My wife was sharing a level of intimacy with this man that she hadn't shared with me in months, maybe years. I spent the rest of the night scrolling through their conversations, reading every word, every laugh, every nostalgic memory they exchanged. And with every message, the weight on my chest grew heavier. The next morning, I couldn't look at her the same way. She noticed my silence but didn't press me about it. I spent the entire day trying to figure out how to bring it up, how to confront her without completely blowing up our lives. That night, after the kids were asleep, I finally did it. I asked her, point blank, "Who's Mike?" The color drained from her face. For a second, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then she muttered, "Oh, he's just an old friend from college." I wasn't buying it. I pressed her, asking why she was messaging him so late at night and why their conversations felt so intimate. At first, she denied it, claiming it was harmless. But when I quoted one of the messages back to her, she broke down. Through tears, she confessed that Mike was someone she'd briefly dated in college. She said their relationship had never been serious, and they'd reconnected on Facebook a few months ago. According to her, their conversations were just a way for her to reminisce about a simpler time in her life. Simpler time? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was our life together so stressful, so unfulfilling, that she felt the need to escape into the past with another man? She insisted it was nothing, that she never meant to hurt me, and that she'd cut off contact with him immediately if that's what I wanted. But the damage was done. Since that night, I haven't been able to stop replaying everything in my head. Every text she sent him feels like a knife to my gut. I can't help but wonder if there's more she's not telling me. Was this just emotional? Or did it go deeper? She's been trying to make amends, going out of her way to show me that she's sorry. She deleted Mike's contact info in front of me and even deactivated her Facebook account. But none of it erases the fact that she hid this from me in the first place. I've started questioning everything about our relationship. Was I not enough for her? Did I miss the signs that she was unhappy? And most importantly, can I ever trust her again? I feel like I'm living in a constant state of paranoia. Every time her phone buzzes, my heart races. I've caught myself checking her phone when she's not around, something I never thought I'd stoop to. It's like I've become a version of myself I don't recognize, and I hate it. We've talked about going to therapy, but part of me wonders if it's even worth it. Can therapy fix something like this? Or am I just delaying the inevitable? I'm torn. I love her, and I want to believe that we can get through this, but a part of me wonders if this is just the tip of the iceberg. If she could hide this from me, what else is she capable of? For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. But I can't shake the feeling that my marriage is standing on a precipice, and one wrong move could send it crashing down. Have any of you ever been in a situation like this? How do you rebuild trust after it's been shattered? Or is it even possible? Right now, I feel like I'm walking in the dark, and I don't know which way to turn. Update. A few days after I first confronted my wife, I thought things were beginning to calm down. She was making an effort, being more open with her phone, constantly reassuring me, and trying to rebuild my trust. For a moment, I wanted to believe we were on the path to healing. But deep down, something didn't sit right. That nagging voice in my head wouldn't leave me alone, and I found myself questioning her every move. One evening, when she was upstairs putting the kids to bed, I noticed her laptop on the dining table. It was open, the screen glowing faintly. I hesitated for a moment, then decided to take a quick look. I wasn't expecting to find anything new. After all, she'd deleted her Facebook account and promised there was no contact with Mike anymore. But as I opened the browser history, my heart stopped. There it was, a search for Mike's LinkedIn profile. She had looked him up just 2 days ago. My mind went into overdrive. Why was she still thinking about him? Why did she need to see his profile if she claimed their connection was over? It felt like a betrayal all over again. When she came downstairs, I confronted her immediately. Her face turned pale, and for a moment, I thought she was going to deny it. But then she sighed and admitted it. She said she was curious, that she wanted to see what he was up to. She insisted it wasn't anything more, that she hadn't messaged him or tried to contact him. But I wasn't convinced. It felt like she was still holding on to a piece of him, even if it was just in her mind. I told her that if she was serious about fixing our marriage, this couldn't happen again. She apologized profusely and promised it wouldn't. Still, the damage was done. That night, I lay awake, wondering if I'd ever truly know the full story. Another update. Weeks passed, and I tried my best to move forward. We started seeing a couples therapist, and while it helped to have a neutral party guide our conversations, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being fed half-truths. Then came the bombshell. One evening, I received a message request on Instagram from a profile I didn't recognize. The account had no profile picture and only a handful of followers. The message read, "You don't know me, but I think you should know the full story about Mike and your wife." My heart was pounding as I clicked to open the message thread. The person claimed to be a friend of Mike's and said they had overheard him talking about my wife. According to this mystery informant, Mike had been bragging to some friends about reconnecting with an old flame and how they had been flirting for months. The person said they didn't know if anything physical had happened, but they felt I deserved to know the truth. I didn't know what to do. Was this person telling the truth, or were they just stirring up drama? I showed the message to my wife, and she immediately denied everything. She insisted she hadn't spoken to Mike since she cut him off, and she had no idea why someone would make such accusations. But her reaction didn't sit well with me. She seemed more angry than defensive, almost as if she was trying to deflect rather than address the issue. I decided to reach out to the person who messaged me and asked for proof. They sent me screenshots of messages between Mike and another friend where he mentioned my wife by name. The messages weren't overly explicit, but they confirmed that Mike believed their conversations had crossed a line. He even joked about how he thought she might still have feelings for him. When I confronted my wife with the screenshots, she broke down in tears. She swore she had never said anything to Mike to make him think that, but at this point, I didn't know what to believe. Was she telling the truth, or was this just another layer to the lies? Final update. After that last confrontation, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. The constant doubt, the sleepless nights, the paranoia, it was eating me alive. I told my wife that I needed some space to figure out what I wanted. She begged me not to leave, promising to do whatever it took to fix things. But I knew deep down that our marriage was no longer built on the foundation it once was. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair. I moved into a small apartment nearby so I could still see the kids regularly. Those first few days alone were some of the hardest of my life, but they also gave me clarity. I spent hours reflecting on our relationship, trying to pinpoint where things went wrong. Was it my fault for not noticing her unhappiness sooner? Was it hers for seeking comfort elsewhere? Or was it simply that we had grown apart over the years without realizing it? A few weeks after moving out, I met with her one last time to discuss where we stood. She looked exhausted, like the weight of everything had finally caught up to her. She apologized again, saying she never meant to hurt me and that she would regret her actions for the rest of her life. I told her I believed her, but believing her didn't change how I felt. The trust was gone, and without it, our marriage couldn't survive. We agreed to separate amicably, focusing on co-parenting our kids and keeping things as stable as possible for them. Since then, life has been a whirlwind of adjustments. Some days I feel at peace with my decision, knowing I did what was best for my mental health. Other days, I'm overwhelmed with sadness for what we lost. As for Mike, I have no idea if he's still in the picture, and honestly, I don't care anymore. My focus is on healing, rebuilding my life, and being the best father I can be. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that trust is the cornerstone of any relationship. Once it's broken, even the strongest love can't always piece it back together.